Hey everybody, could you use some good news? Well, usually I talk to you about science in this series, but this week all three good news items come from the world of politics. You've probably heard about one or two of them already, and to my non-American viewers, I apologize for this being such an America-centric episode, but this week all three good news stories come to us courtesy, surprisingly enough, of the United States Supreme Court. First, of course, is the court's decision announced Friday in Obergefell v. Hodges, which rules that the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution requires all states to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples. After decades of activism and struggle, same-sex marriage is now legal in the United States of America. Tears flowed across the country following the reading of the decision. Tears of joy from same-sex couples and their friends and family as their relationships are finally recognized by the laws of their country. Tears of pride from Americans happy to see their country take this extremely belated but important step forward. And tears of pain and defeat from religious conservatives who still stubbornly oppose LGBT equality and fear that God will visit his wrath upon the nation for this. Relax, folks. 17 countries legalized same-sex marriage at the national level before we got around to it. And they're all fine, so even if there is a God, I think we'll be okay. Besides, if God didn't smite us for slavery, segregation, subjugation of women, genocidal policies toward American Indians, or any of the other evil shit we've done over the last 240 years or so, I don't think he's gonna get too worked up over this. The day before the Supreme Court announced its same-sex marriage decision, it handed down another bit of good news in the case of King v. Burwell. The court upheld a key component of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, the most significant reform to our American healthcare system since pretty much ever. The dispute was over whether or not people in states with federally operated health insurance exchanges should be eligible for the same tax credits as those in states with their own state-operated exchanges. 34 states have such federally operated exchanges, so the effect on healthcare reform would have been devastating had this ruling gone the other way. The ruling is good news for President Barack Obama, of course, as it helps to secure what will be one of the most enduring legacies of his administration, but it's even better news for the 6.5 million Americans who are able to afford health insurance thanks to the federal subsidies the court upheld, and the millions more who will be able to benefit from them in the coming years. Finally, a Supreme Court ruling that didn't get as much attention as those first two, but which is every bit as important. The court ruled that the Fair Housing Act, enacted as part of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, which makes housing discrimination on the basis of race a federal crime, applies to apparently unintentional discrimination just the same as it does to overtly discriminatory policies. This means that fair housing advocates will be able to continue challenging housing policies on the basis of disparate impact. That is, policies that aren't overtly discriminatory, but which have a negative impact on minorities and serve no other valid purpose. One of the most effective strategies for alleviating poverty is inclusionary zoning that requires the building of affordable housing in suburban market-rate developments. This allows low-income families access to better schools, employment opportunities, and public services than they would otherwise have if forced to stay in impoverished communities. Hopefully, this ruling will result in many more such inclusionary communities and discourage the de facto segregation that traps far too many people of color in lifelong poverty. The U.S. Supreme Court scores a hat trick, handing down 3 progressive and humane decisions legalizing same-sex marriage, upholding a key provision of the Affordable Care Act, and ruling that the Fair Housing Act protects against unintentional housing discrimination. That's the good news. Feels good to be an American after hearing news like that, huh, Audie? I think that means yes.